crazy summer. As you can see, this won many awards, and I give it 3 stars. One of the problems that I have with a lot of books like this has to do with a children's attitude, and amazingly enough, as problematic as that was in here, it's not the only reason why I gave it 3 stars. A lot of the backstory with the mom just made me so angry when I was done with this book that I was not ready to give it to my daughter. Now, I want to preface this by saying some of the stuff, when I say I have an issue with attitudes, I want a little definition, backstory, or example behind it. Something like Little House on the Prairie, where Laura, you know, has an off day, and I'm sorry, I think Mary's a little bratty. I don't really think she's all that great, but it was all image for her. It wasn't necessarily heart, so that always irritated me as a kid. Something like that doesn't bother me as much as somebody with a habitual weakness. Now, definitely we all have weaknesses and we all need to grow in that. However, if I notice that my daughter has attitude issues, I'm not really going to give her a book where the main character has attitude issues. And it's not that they are saying, hey, look, this is a bad attitude, you need to change it. There really wasn't anything addressed in that, so that is the biggest reason why I won't give this book to her. If my daughter has stealing issues, I'm not going to give her a book about let's say Dodger, who thieves to survive. Even though it had a really great story, I'm not going to give that to her. She needs to grow and learn to use self-discipline before I give her something that not really glorifies it, that's not really the right word, but doesn't talk about why this is wrong. It's kind of like saying, here's your best friend, you know, she has a problem with gossiping, but we don't want you to gossip. You're kind of surrounding yourself with that mindset, culture, whatever, and it's not good. It's not good to be fed upon. So when I'm looking for attitude issues, it's something that I know is a weakness in myself, and it's a weakness in my children at this stage, and they're not ready for content like this. This book is geared towards kids 8 to 12. My daughter will be 11 this year. That's why I have problems with attitudes in children's books. Later on, you know, like I said, I don't mind her reading this in a few years, but right now is not a good time. The eldest girl does say shut up to her younger siblings a lot of times. There is a lot of back talking, and the mom really, here's my big thing with the book. The mom doesn't care. She doesn't want to be a mom. Great book to give to my 11-year-old right now. I know in her mind she's going to know that I'm not this way. I don't need even a hint of a doubt in her mind. And that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what I am not doing. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with it, but it's just like a little drop into and it'll cause a ripple effect. Okay? So, but the mom in here just, after she had the 3rd child, she walked out on the family. And so the kids have been living with Big Ma and their father in Detroit, and one summer their father decides that they're going to go and stay with their mom. And this is like 1968, I think. And they're going to go to Oakland, California and stay with their mom. And of course, the eldest girl is not happy like this. She's like, you abandoned us a while ago. And they get there and she notices her mom. Her mom is hiding in the shadows. Her mom is wearing clothes that she says that they're like a man's clothes. And but the mom doesn't want to be there, and she just kind of stalks off, and the kids are supposed to follow her and race after her and all this stuff. So there is your first impression of the mom. It only goes down from there. The mom basically hands them money and says, here, go to this person around the corner and get your food. They go around, they're all scared, they're in a new environment. The oldest is 11 years old. She ends up taking care of all of her siblings for this time, and their mom is always just like, leave me alone, don't mess with me, I'm going to be in the kitchen, you are not to bother me, be quiet, don't, you know, I don't want you here. Like, there is no doubt in anybody's mind that they're not here. She calls her eldest two by name. She refuses to call the third one by any name other than, there's a specific name, basically like little girl, or, you know, she'll just directly talk to her and never uses the name, okay? In the end of the book, you find out, like, the oldest girl basically has this breaking down moment. You find out that the mom had a bit of a past, and what happened was, somehow she ended up with her aunt. I don't remember if her parents died or what happened, but she ended up with a family member who basically made her a servant at the house. She had to take care of the whole household. And then she was going to get married, the guardian, and gives her $20 and some food, and basically says, you got to go, it's better for you anyways. And she learns to live on her own until she ends up with their father, and then has 2 kids, and by the 3rd kid, it's like she crumbles, and then she walks out. I have a problem with this, okay? And this is not a book that I really want my daughter reading. I talk a lot about Holmesburg, something that I really enjoyed. It has to do with the Indian culture, and a widowed girl at the age of 11 or 12, a widowed girl, and how widows were treated in the Indian culture. That, again, is another really difficult book. I'm not going to give it to my 11-year-old. Their innocence is still beautiful right now, and while I don't want to keep them a child forever, I don't necessarily want to, at this time of them learning about themselves, I really don't want to push more on them. That's like that's a disaster waiting to happen. So the mom in here, I know it's not the main story. It's about them. The mom is part of Black Panther somehow, some way. The whole civil rights movement in California, and they're at a shelter, and they kind of get wrapped up into it, and they learn a little bit more about it. But you know, being an adult, my frustration is not so much with the child side of the story, but with this mom that just is a huge part of the story, which I guess that makes it a good thing, because it's not just a book that children can enjoy, some parents can get something out of it, I guess. But this mom, it's like, you know, even though you had a horrible experience and you want your daughter to grow from this, you're not exactly helping. You're just basically teaching her. One line in here that just made me see red was, you can be selfish. You don't always have to be self-giving. Be selfish. And I'm like, what? No! You do what is right regardless of whatever situation you're in. It doesn't matter that everybody's treating you horribly. Definitely, there was an applauding moment where she's like, well, somebody has to take care of the kids if our parents won't. And that should have been like a, hello, step up to your place, mom. But no, she just uses it like, well, you're going to have to learn to stand up for yourself. And maybe it's me that I'm like, no, you're putting actually more pressure on a child when you do that. So again, like I said, it really was frustrating to me at this point. A lot of it, they're obviously Black culture, and maybe there's some stuff that I just don't understand with that. I don't know. But there is a balance between wanting your child to grow up, speak for themselves, be responsible, and you're the parent and you protect that. I don't care what your past is. You protect that. And you protect that child. And I didn't see that in here, and that's one reason why I'm not going to give it to my daughter right now. So there is my very controversial discussion on this other book that I finished in the month of July. Definitely something that she could read later, just not right now. Okay, I just thought of something after filming that last clip, and I wanted to get on here and do a short clip. Discussions. Yes, discussions are very important, definitely to have with your kids. But with all the books that are out there and all the things that we do talk about, I would still have a discussion with her later on when she starts reading it. But as of right now, there are so many other books that we do read, especially with read alouds, and those are great times to do discussions. If I have to have a discussion with almost every book that she reads, then we need to reevaluate what we're reading. And so that I just wanted to throw that in insofar as having a discussion with this book, which is a phenomenal idea, but I will still be having discussions with it later on when she's older and can absorb some of the other issues with it, you know, like the attitude things. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that in here really quick. Alright, I have a couple more books to talk about today, and we'll start with this first one, which is Maniac Mckee. The story of this book is that this kid named Jeffrey, who ends up being Maniac Mckee after people learn that he's kind of like a Encyclopedia Brown MacGyver type of dude. He loves to run. He ends up running away from the grandparent, I think, is that he ended up with. His parents died on a trolley accident, and he ends up with some relatives and then runs away from them. He goes back to where he's from, and it's kind of like an east side, west side type of story. You've got the blacks on one side and you have the white culture on the other side. You have a bunch of different things going on. This is a really slow start for me in the book. I wasn't impressed, and even at the end, it was just kind of a ho-hum story. I don't completely understand why it got the Newbery Medal, but I know that it's awarded each year, so maybe this was the best that year had to offer. Well, there wasn't anything for me to really... I didn't have any objections to it, but again, in the end, it was just one of those ho-hum type of stories. It wasn't great, it wasn't spectacular, but, you know, it wasn't something that I wouldn't mind my kids picking up and reading. However, due to shelf space on my shelf, I probably will not be keeping it. And if they want to check it out from the library, they will be more than welcome to do so. Alright, then this was our family read aloud. I had seen this on Amazon and I bought it, and I kind of wish I would have gotten it from the library. I think I did try, but I couldn't get it in our local system. But
Hey, kitty. Hey, kitty.
So this kind of had like a bonanza feel to it. It is a story of this one kid named Nathaniel who ends up in a tragic accident and basically has a worthless leg, and their father, or his father, ends up adopting an orphan-trained child who has a tragic past as well. And the two boys just kind of duke it out. The oldest one is afraid that the younger one's just trying to take his place, not only in his chores, but also in his father's eyes. And there's just a lot of friction going on in the family. And because of that, you know, most of the book is about their differences with each other. The mother had also lost a daughter, his sister, and so she's going through grievances. And I think in the end the story is more about healing. But there's like an understory going through this about the, you know, like the Haskells and the McCoys type of thing. And it's kind of that idea here. However, it's such a minor part of the story until the end, when it does play a more major role and it brings the whole family together and everybody ends up happily ever after. I think I'm going to be giving this to a dear friend of mine because something that just made all of us smile when I was reading it out loud is the fact that there is a Greek family in this story, And one of the ways that these two boys bonded is over these Greek stories that the Greek girl loans him, the treasury book. And so, again, they just kind of bond over that, and it just made us smile. And most of these Greek mythology stories, we've learned over the years and have enjoyed. So I'm actually going to send this to a friend of mine. She also has a boy named John. It's a little different, but I think I might be, bring a smile to her face. So I'm going to send that to her. And again, there is nothing bad about this book. If the kids picked it up and read it, I would have no problems with that whatsoever. But again, it felt more like a reenactment of Bonanza than something like Old Yeller was. So, anyway, these are the two books we finished in the past 24 hours.